And so as well as looking for world-class insiders or individuals with world-class pedigree that are involved in the biotech companies that I'm looking to invest in, I'm also looking at the pipeline. You can see an example here, and essentially a pipeline is just a detail of all of the treatments that are in development with the specific biotech company. And as we can see from this example up on your screen, we can see that there are different treatments in different phases. And so this is really important simply because it shows how close a treatment is to approval by a medical body. And with that approval, the next phase, or the next step, if you like, is the commercialization of that product, which means that the company starts to potentially bring in revenue. And so with an FDA approval, we will see a substantial share price spike. And so if we look at Humacyte's pipeline, just as an example, we can see here that there are different phases in their pipeline. Right here, we can see that they already have this one treatment or this one innovation approved in their pipeline, where it says FDA approved over here. And so Humacyte have developed this acellular tissue engineered vessel, which we can see in their pipeline right here. And as we can see right now, it's only approved, so we can only use this acellular tissue engineered vessel for patients who have vascular trauma, so injuries sustained on the battlefield, for example, or in industrial accidents, operating dangerous machinery in a factory, for example, where a limb may be severed. And now they're working towards getting this same treatment or this same innovation approved for dialysis, which would open up the product to a far wider new patient population, which in turn means that there's a wider reach, a bigger opportunity to generate future revenue with this product too. And so as we can see, Humacyte's pipeline is quite advanced in the sense that they have the product already approved for one indication, the vascular trauma one, which we've just discussed. And when we look at Precigen's pipeline, for example, we can see that it's quite well developed compared to when I first invested in this company too. We can see here that they already have this one treatment approved right here. It's Papzimeos. And now they're at the stage where they've been posting very promising revenue results with the sale of Papzimeos in the US. And they are looking to enter a new market, the European market. They're in discussions with the European Medicines Agency, which is essentially the equivalent of the FDA, but for Europe. And that opens up the same product, the same treatment, Papzimeos, again to this wider population in the continent of Europe too. Precigen are also advancing with this treatment right here, PGEN 2009, in several active phase 2 clinical trials at the moment. And so if we look at CoCrystal Pharmaceuticals, just to compare, their pipeline is very much in its infancy. Their most advanced treatment is in phase 2A at the moment. But one of the things to consider with the influenza A, the oral P2B inhibitor CC42344, as much as it says that it's in phase 2A, is that the study was actually delayed simply because a number of the patients that were supposed to take part in the clinical trial weren't infected sufficiently with the flu. Effectively, they weren't sick enough in order to test the innovation, the treatment that's in development. And so the phase 2 trial had to be paused, and CoCrystal Pharmaceuticals are having to redevelop this phase and go through that hurdle once again. And so this is a perfect example of the kind of risk that I'm talking about, where a company which is in earlier stages, hiccups and problems do happen. What you can deduce for that, or what you can interpret from that, is that the further along a company is in the development of a certain treatment, so the further along or the more advanced the pipeline is, the less risky the investment. Simply because they're closer to an FDA approval, there is less chance of failure, albeit, there is still the potential for problems, for hiccups, for failures too. But certainly, the more advanced the pipeline, the less risky the investment.